What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the Hands-On channel. I'm glad you decided to stop by here and give me your ear for a few minutes. I've got something that's really critical, probably the most important, most damning evidence that I can present of how Joe Biden and his regime are directly violating your Bill of Rights, your United States Constitution. And for those of you who are unaware of this or who don't know this, that there's a clause in the Constitution called the Supremacy Clause, and it states that the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. And if a law is created and it does not have the spirit and or the ideals of the Constitution in mind, or it violates the U.S. Constitution, then it is null and void. And that is written in plain English so that the citizens of the United States could understand what their rights were. I mean, it's pretty obvious, but as we've discussed numerous times here on the show, the American people, through the public education system and the Marxist approach that they've taken toward, basically turning all of our kids into perfect little communists, they don't like to talk about the Bill of Rights anymore. They don't like to tell people or inform them what their rights actually are, because they're worried that an informed citizenry will stand up to this tyranny that's going on right now. I mean, there's no other way that you can look at this as anything less than tyranny. That's what this is. So I want to get into this federal red flag center right now. For one thing, currently as it stands, there are no federal red flag laws. The last time that I was able to find data on it, it was from an article back in 2020, and they said there are like 19 states that have state red flag laws. So what they're saying is, what the Department of Justice is saying is that this office is going to be used to help sheriffs and other agencies, police around the country, to be able to target in on these potential red flag violators, these people that need to have their firearms taken away from them. If you don't know, red flag laws basically means that someone in your family usually, or one of your friends, or an ex-girlfriend or ex-wife or whatever that might have a personal vendetta against you, can say, oh yeah, Joe Bob over there, he's crazy as hell and he has guns. Well, then all of a sudden that gives the authority to sheriffs and police departments to come in and seize your guns. Although that is a direct violation of the Fourth Amendment, I believe it is. We're going to get into that toward the end of the video. But I got to set the table here for you guys. If you don't know about this, again, this is the most direct, unconstitutional thing that I have seen in all of Biden's time as president, okay? So that's saying quite a lot. He's done a lot of other stuff that is clearly unconstitutional and not in the spirit or the ideals of the founding principles of this country, such as they tried to have I called it the Ministry of Truth. I can't remember what they actually called it. It was like the Department of Misinformation or something like that. They had that lady that a lot of people called Scary Poppins. She was like a psycho Mary Poppins, right? She was just out of this world, like a cartoon character come to life, right? That's the people that Biden brings in to help destroy the country with communism and Marxism. So anyway, this is the latest example of that. And this is way, way worse than censoring what you say online, okay? This is coming to your house, violating your Fourth Amendment and your Fifth Amendment and your Second Amendment. So, I mean, this is a huge deal. Let's get into this. Headline. You can find this article, and I suggest you go read the whole thing. Don't take my word for it. Don't take my opinion on it. Go read it for yourself and see how you react to it. And get back to me. Let me know down in the comments. Does this piss you off? Does this light a patriotic fire inside of your gut that can't be put out? I think it might. At least for me, that's how I'm feeling. I mean, when I first read this a couple of nights ago, steam was shooting out of my ears. I was red in the face. This pissed me off badly. And probably should piss you off too. Behold, the Biden regime's disturbing and unauthorized new federal red flag center. So unauthorized meaning, Congress is supposed to write the laws, create the laws, right? And create these new organizations or whatever. But they didn't do it. It came from the Department of Justice. That's not legal. That's not the normal way of going about things. The left is setting its sights on your guns, America. This isn't an exaggeration. It's the reality we're now facing. And it's only going to get worse because transforming a country from within gets a whole lot tougher when its patriots are armed. And I can't tell you how many times, maybe at least 5 times, I've heard Biden say that if you wanted to take on the federal government, you'd need a whole lot more than just an AR-15 or an AK-47. You'd need F-16s and nukes. So if that really was true, I don't think they'd be doing this kind of stuff, trying to take away people's right to bear arms. So what's a tyrannical, evil regime to do? Well, naturally, they'll whip up a handy-dandy center and begin zeroing in on dissenters, and that's exactly what the Biden regime is up to right now. They're building this new center, and when I say the name, you'll understand why I can't remember it. It's just unbelievably long, and it's just like, oh my God, only the federal government could create an organization and name it this. In a blatant drive to transform American citizens into shameful informants for the government's brown shirts by encouraging them to snitch on neighbors, friends, and family, the Biden regime has, without Congress's approval, in total violation of the U.S. Constitution, established a red flag center. This move is aimed at spying on we the people and infringing upon our Second Amendment rights through the use of civilian spies. It's a ballsy step to bulldoze America's constitutional freedoms and disarm us, literally and figuratively. This alarming center is set to be illegally run by Biden's politicized DOJ, targeting anyone viewed as a political dissident. The same tyrannical and anti-American garbage we've seen time and time again from this regime. So again, it's just the same old thing. It's a broken record with them. Every single time you turn around, they're breaking the Constitution or attempting to break the Constitution in some way, shape, or form. They don't care about it. I said before, when Biden came into office, under the circumstances that he took office, he basically lit a fire on the bottom corner of the Constitution, and most people didn't notice, and it's been burning behind him ever since. Congressman Thomas Massie is among those deeply disturbed by this illegal move. He's now exposing this unconstitutional center for exactly what it is. Here's his take on the announcement of this alarming, unauthorized new red flag center established by the Biden regime. He says, "What the hell is this evil?" It's a good question. It is evil. It's communist. A federal red flag center? We did not authorize this. Announced, of course, just hours after the omnibus passes. So I'm not 100% sure that it's in the 1,000 pages of the omnibus bill, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's not included in the omnibus bill that many of our representatives and our senators signed on to. I don't know if you're aware of this whole thing. It kind of happened quickly, and a lot of stuff's gone on, including the bridge collapse and all this other stuff that's been distracting us. But last week, like Thursday or Friday, the House passed the omnibus bill for $1.2 trillion, right? Spending us, kicking the can down the road to keep the government open, right? Because they're so afraid, the Republicans are so afraid of their shadow, and they're so afraid of getting pinned by the mainstream media, Democrat, communist-controlled media apparatus that, they're worried about getting nailed for that in an election year. So I kind of understand why they were feeling some pressure to maybe vote that way just to keep the government open. But at the same time, the way Mike Johnson, Speaker Johnson, allowed this bill to be voted on after only 12 hours in the hands of your representatives is shameful. The House, at the beginning of the session, they have like rules that they set out at the beginning of the session for every different house that comes along, different group of people. When they come in, they have these new rules, right? Well, the new rules, one of them was that it only takes a single member to get rid of the speaker. The other one was there's supposed to be a 72-hour rule, meaning that all of the representatives are supposed to be allowed at least 72 hours to view and read and, absorb and argue and, whatever, any bill that comes across their desk. But instead, Johnson passed it and said, yeah, let's vote on it with only 12 hours to go. Wink, wink, nod, nod. We got to do this because we can't have a government shutdown because the leftist media people will blame it all on us. And one of the ways that that works is the Democrats, when the government is actually shutting down, I've seen this happen before. When it is actually shutting down, they'll go after certain targeted things to maximize the pain felt by the populace, right? So they'll make sure that the funding stops for like the parks and the, all the different things like that around DC, so that when people are coming in to visit DC, well, we just can't afford to do it. Meanwhile, their limos still have plenty of gas in them. Their government credit cards are still working like crazy. And it's just unbelievable that we put up with this kind of crap. Okay? So moving on, and I agree with Thomas Massey on all that he said just then. Breaking: the Department of Justice, with the help of newly formed National Extreme Risk Protection Order Resource Center. That's the name of this freaking Orwellian nightmare of an office that they've set up to spy on American people, to steal their, at least, to violate at least 3 rights. At least 3. And you could probably argue even more, but this violates at least 3 rights in the Bill of Rights. Let me read that again. National Extreme Risk Protection Order Resource Center. I mean, that's a mouthful. They'll be working with doctors, district attorneys, judges, and other federal agencies under the guise of mental health to hand over personal information and collaborate on the documents which would allow law enforcement the right to confiscate U.S. citizens' firearms and imprison them under the pretense of saving you from yourself, according to a new press release. So, I mean, they're all knowing, right? They're basically gods. So they know exactly what's going to happen before it happens, and they can do pre-crime like on Minority Report. So if if they see your doctor report and maybe like 10 years ago you had some depression and you went to the doctor and told them about it, well, guess what? Red flag. If they see your social media posts and you're anti-BLM, anti-LGBTQ, anti-communism, anti-Biden, anti-anything to do with the leftist agenda, red flag, red flag, red flag, red flag. They're coming. The Gestapo have just given themselves the unauthorized authorization to come to your house and steal your guns, take them away from you without due process, mind you. Violating your right to be secure in your persons, places, things, and effects. Violating your Second Amendment right to bear arms shall not be infringed, right? Shall not be infringed. I don't see anything in the Second Amendment that says anything about a red flag federal government office coming and taking my guns away from me. The first group they'll probably target, of course, is innocent vets. You better believe it, vets. If you're out there watching the channel, just get ready. They're going to come after you first. The very ones that they've worn down with their endless forever wars. They're going to say, well, look, you had PTSD when you came back from Iraq or Afghanistan or whatever, right? And, oh, yeah, we know this because we forced you to go in for a psychiatric exam, and the psychiatrist said, oh, yeah, you have PTSD, right? Guess what? You're going to get your guns taken away from you. Here's what folks online are saying about this dangerous new office. And I look forward to reading all of your comments, but I'm going to warn you right now. Be very careful in what you say. Do not incriminate yourself on my channel or anyone else's comment section on the internet, because they'll be looking at that stuff too. You better believe it. So here's what someone said online. This is illegal and unconstitutional. Yeah, that's actually very smart and very to the point. I like that. I agree 100%. This was not approved by Congress. Next person says, yeah, that's pretty right on the money. Not approved by Congress, the people that are supposed to make laws. It's as if the Biden administration has no idea about the 3 separate but equal branches of the federal government. They don't care. They also don't care about states' rights either. We could have a moral argument on whether or not red flag laws should be allowed. I don't think so. I think there's too many examples where, you know, a pissed off ex-wife or ex-girlfriend or a friend that, you know, doesn't agree with you on politics, not really a friend, a family member that doesn't agree with you on politics, because you're right wing and you're pro-gun and all this stuff, they're going to get triggered by that. And so they could just call in on you just to have your guns removed for no reason, for no legitimate reason. There is so much potential for abuse in a system like this that relies on informants and snitches, brown shirts, that it has no place in the United States of America, period. So I disagree with states having red flag laws. That's why if my state suddenly said we have red flag laws and we're going to enforce them, I would be looking to move to a different state. That's how important of an issue it is to me. But my state doesn't have red flag laws, and as long as I'm voting and have a mouth to talk to other people, I'm going to make sure that that doesn't happen in my state, because it's catastrophic. Every single tyrant and dictator from the beginning of time has had to disarm the people. I mean, Alex Jones said it best. Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. And if you try to take our guns, Pierce, 1776 will commence again. Next comment. This will be used to attack innocent veterans. Yes, it will. Next comment. Your lies no longer work. The veil that has hidden your communism, Marxism, and constitutional shredding activities has been lifted. You work for the American people, not the other way around. The time has come for tyranny to be tamed and the U.S. restored to the shiny city status. Absolutely. Well said, my friend. This is an impeachable offense, and anyone there going along with this needs to be fired. I would add, not only fired, they need to be imprisoned. They need to be put in prison, federal prison for this. I mean, every single one of these officers has to swear an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States of America. That includes these 3 amendments right here that Biden is openly violating, that Merrick Garland is openly violating. This violates the privacy rights of people. Doctor-patient privilege. Absolutely. That's a whole nother angle of this that, you know, I don't know if you guys remember, but like 4, 5, 6 years ago, I don't remember. It was sometime after they announced Obamacare, and they basically ruined our healthcare system, and they nationalized our healthcare system, right? All of a sudden, they had to digitize all the medical records so that, you know, they could be out there like in a database or something, or, you know, what would you say? On a server somewhere, a government server, where they have all this information in one database. And any doctor anywhere can look at this. Well, that's how they're going to get in. That's their back door to find out if you said 10 years ago you were suffering from depression or something like that, or anxiety or whatever. When in reality, this stuff right here should cause you a great deal of anxiety. I mean, is it a self-fulfilling prophecy? They're going to be like, oh, look, Hands On channel, he's paranoid about the government coming and taking his guns. We have to go take his guns because he's paranoid. Is that it? Is that it? Or am I telling you a common sense, hey, the government's got this new office, they could come and take your guns from you? Unfreaking believable. Next person says, isn't this a HIPAA violation? Yeah, it probably is a HIPAA violation, but more importantly than that, it violates the Supremacy Clause of the United States Constitution. Next question, where did you get the authority to do this? Well, let me tell you, let me answer that question for you. The same place all tyrants get their authority. They make it up out of thin air. And then they say it over and over and over and over and over enough to where you believe it. Crooked Joe Biden's Gestapo DOJ is the most extreme risk to our democracy. Yeah. But I would say not to our democracy, but to our constitutional republic. Unconstitutional. Who developed and authorized the creation of this? Well, Biden, Barack Obama, George Soros, Bill Gates, Klaus Schwab, Committee of 300, Club of 300, whatever the hell they're called, the Bilderberg Group, Rothschilds, Davos, Rockefellers. Do I need to go on? My county sheriff has been notified about this federal breach of constitutional rights, and he informed me that I should contact him if any DOJ employees contact me. Everyone should ask their county sheriff if they will protect them from this criminal DOJ. Yes, that's an excellent piece of advice right there. And I'm glad to see this person, took the initiative to go out and talk, cut this off, nip it at the bud. Go get to his sheriff and talk to him before he has a chance to, turn the wrong way. I mean, because if you don't go in and let your local officials know how you're feeling, then they're going to be able to just say, well, we don't know how they feel. We'll just do whatever the White House says. But if there's pushback from within the community, the sheriffs are going to tend to, follow the Constitution. Because again, I'm not 100% sure, but I'm pretty sure that sheriffs even have to swear an oath to uphold and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, both foreign and domestic. And right now, we have a domestic enemy sitting in the White House. I mean, you don't believe me? Look at this stuff. Here it is. He's violating the Constitution. They're shredding it. They're burning it. They're tearing it up right before your eyes. What are you going to do about it? Can you at least be bothered to pick up a phone and call your representatives and tell them that you're not going to be, abused like this? You're not going to let your Bill of Rights be forgotten like this? You're not going to let the government come and piss on your leg and tell you it's raining outside? No. And you should go talk to your sheriffs. But one more thing I want to say about your local sheriffs and stuff like that. If you live out in a rural area, chances are your sheriff's probably a conservative or at very least libertarian minded. Okay? So you're probably good to talk to him. But if you live in a really urban area where you have a big city anywhere in that county, you might want to proceed with caution. Because the sheriff may be the very one, if he's one of these liberal scumbags on the left that doesn't want the citizens having firearms, he could be the one to turn you in. So while that's good advice, if you have a conservative sheriff and you live in a rural area, I don't think I would do it if I lived in an urban area, because chances are you're going to get a liberal, commie, scumbag sheriff that's just going to say, oh, why are you so paranoid? Oh, you got anxiety about this? Oh, I see. Check. Red flag. What part of shall not be infringed is so hard to comprehend? That's a great question, but I think they do comprehend it. They know exactly what they're doing. Completely unconstitutional, but this whole administration is, so who cares, right? That's a great point. They've done so much unconstitutional stuff that, eventually you kind of get jaded to it and you're like, okay, here he goes again, breaking the Constitution. And that's part of their plan, it's the Cloward and Piven strategy of overwhelm the system. Well, they've overwhelmed the masses with all the crazy stuff that's going on, whether that be on the verge of World War III, Putin threatening to nuke us, bridges our infrastructure collapsing, literally collapsing because of whether that was an accident or was that a cyber attack. A lot of people are speculating. I don't know. There's a lot of stuff going on. A lot of stuff. They're trying to prosecute their number one political opponent. The number one person, the only one that has a chance of beating Joe Biden. They've been trying, the Democrats, when I say they, the Democrat apparatus all across the country in a unified effort has been trying to throw as much shit against the wall as they can and seeing what sticks against Trump. Luckily, Trump always had the nickname Teflon Don, and so far very little has stuck to him. And, they thought he was broke and all this, and then he sold Truth Social or made it public. Now he's a multi-billionaire again. All this, right? This was a great point here. You're the redcoats of our time. They're talking to the Biden administration, and I completely agree with that. They're traitors to the United States of America, traitors to the Constitution. Great. Another arm of government that is weaponized against its citizens. This is what the Constitution was supposed to protect us from. I agree with the spirit of this commenter's comment, but here's the problem. The Constitution was never supposed to protect us from anything. The Constitution is a piece of paper, right? It's a series of ideals written down. It wasn't, that alone is not what protects us and protects our rights. It's we the people that are supposed to protect, preserve, and uphold the Constitution and defend the Constitution. So in addition to this new red flag development, it really brings home the point of what Elon Musk said in reaction to a poll by former Democrat. Check this out. So Elon Musk basically said he used to vote Democrat. 4 or 5 years ago, that's all he did was vote Democrat. But now he knows that if there's not a red tsunami or a red wave in November, that this country is over. This experiment in freedom and liberty and individual government will be over. We cannot endure another term of Joe Biden. That's the facts, Jack. to borrow one of Joe Biden's little sayings there, that's the facts. No joke. It's no joke, man. No joke. Do my other Joe Biden impersonation where I wander around lost, right? I mean, it's unbelievable that any of us put up with this crap. Elon is right. If we don't see a red tsunami come election time, we're looking at a truly grim reality for the country. Red flag centers will be the tip of the iceberg. Powered up Dems will come after the American people with all the abusive power of the federal government, showing no mercy whatsoever. Welcome to the latest phase of the Biden regime, the era of the thought police, and they're just getting started. Remember not long ago, like I said, they had the Ministry of Truth. Now it's the thought police, thought crimes, different things like that. If you don't have one of these, you need to get one. It's a pocket constitution. Carry it around with you all the time. Sometimes I even forget. I'm pretty well versed in the Constitution, but sometimes I even forget. So I carry mine with me all the time in case I'm out somewhere and someone starts trying to violate my rights. I'll at least be able to look at it and go, oh, that's right. You're violating my right here, and you're not going to be allowed to do that. Amendment 2. A well-regulated militia being necessary to the security of a free state. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. It's pretty clear cut. The Democrats like to argue that what the founding fathers meant by a well-regulated militia was they think it means like a federal organization of, sort of like the military, only privatized military within the United States of America. That is not what they meant at all. You could look at that. Well-regulated. What does that mean? Well, you could argue that it means well-equipped, right? Another way of saying that. So anyway, here's another one that they're violating with this stupid, what the hell is it called again? Give me this so I can see their stupid name. National Extreme Risk Protection Order Resource Center. Again, only the federal government could screw something up so badly to name it that. Amendment 4, the right of the people to be secure in their persons, houses, papers, and effects against unreasonable searches and seizures shall not be violated, and no warrants shall issue but upon probable cause. Supported by oath or affirmation, and particularly describing the place to be searched and the person or things to be seized. Amendment 5. No person shall be held to answer for capital or otherwise infamous crime unless on a presentment or indictment of a grand jury, except in cases arising in land or naval forces or in the militia, when the actual service in time of war or public danger. Nor shall any persons be subject for the same offense to be twice put in jeopardy, the double jeopardy clause, of life or limb. Nor shall be compelled in any criminal case to be a witness against himself. This last part is the most important part because this is the part that Biden is directly violating. Nor be deprived of life, liberty, or property. Property includes firearms. Without due process of law, nor shall private property be taken for public use without just compensation. So he's violating with this stupid office that I can never remember the name of because it's way too wordy. He's violating Second Amendment, Fourth Amendment, and Fifth Amendment just to get started, and the Supremacy Clause of the United States Constitution. If that's not unconstitutional in 6 different ways to Sunday, then I don't know what is. Guys, we're in a lot of trouble. I mean, a lot of trouble. I cannot imagine even Democrats in the past being so brazen to try to do something like this. I can't even imagine Barack Hussein Obama, also known as Barry Soetoro, doing something like this. They're doing this with their Manchurian candidate because they know they have to go for broke right now. They have to push for their globalist New World Order all the way. They have to push it all the way. And every time something fails and someone points out, the failures of their globalist policies, they have to double down on it and throw more money at it and print more money and on and on and on until the bottom falls out of this thing, because that is their dream, is to destroy the United States of America from within so that it can be rebuilt by the globalists from outside. So, guys, we're in a lot of trouble. You better be careful what you say and what you've said in the past to doctors and other, people in official capacity, because this stuff could come back on you. I even wonder sometimes, I was just thinking earlier, I'm like, I'm going to have to be really, really careful if I do any more firearms videos in the future, because I guarantee you that's going into the database as another right-wing, fanatical, pro-Trump, ultra-MAGA, whatever they'll call me, anti-communist, anti-LGBT. Well, all those are red flags. And you get enough of those red flags, or those, you get bumped up enough, and the next thing you know, they're knocking at your door to seize your firearms. Rhetorical question. Don't answer this down in the comments. What are you going to do when the Gestapo show up on your front door and demand that you turn over your guns? And, you got to be worried about some of the tactics that the police have implemented in the past, decade or so, with the no-knock warrants and stuff like that, and how many problems that's caused, where people get their doors kicked in at 6 a.m., and you don't know if it's a burglar or, ATF or FBI or local sheriff. You don't know who it is. You're sleeping, all of a sudden someone's kicking in your door. It's like, in your mind, as a husband, as a father, as a prepper, as a regular person, in your mind, as a person that wants to preserve your own life and your own everything you've worked for, you're kind of like highly attuned to that. You're looking out for that. You're waiting for it. A lot of us keep our gun by our bedside. So, I mean, if suddenly I heard some kicking at the door, I would assume it's bad guys coming in to, and I guess it's arguable if the cops go along with this. That puts them in a different category, doesn't it? This doesn't end well, guys. I think they're setting the stage for potentially another Ruby Ridge or Waco scenario or something like that to happen. This is definitely setting the stage to allow something like that to happen. It's almost as if they've been baiting the patriots, the conservatives, the people on the right, the people they consider extremists. They have been baiting us into doing something already. And now this, the icing on the cake. Boy, someone once said, may we live in exciting times. And boy, do we. Boy, do we. But they're not exciting in a good way. Everything's going to shit. Everything. So, prep up, zip up, keep your lips sealed. And that's one of the things I think is going to happen. A lot of people are going to just, they're going to be quiet about their political ideas and content because they're going to be afraid of being put in a category that's going to get them searched and, put them in a really dangerous situation. Really, really dangerous. For everyone involved, law enforcement that's involved with that. I mean, again, those individual police are going to have to ask themselves the question when it comes time to seize a law-abiding citizen's firearms. They're going to have to ask themselves the question, did I really mean it when I said the oath to the Constitution? Or did I have my fingers crossed or something? Or did it, are those just empty words that mean nothing? I don't know. Each one of them are going to have to ask themselves that question. And I'm just telling you guys, proceed with caution. Because unless the Congress is able to undo this, or the Supreme Court or somebody like that, And the only way the Supreme Court's going to be able to undo it is if someone actually gets violated by this agency. And then once that happens, then they'll have, justification to go have maybe a Supreme Court case about it or whatever, if the Supreme Court will even bother to hear it. Boy, that's just leaves you shaking your head when they can violate 3 amendments with one unconstitutional agency that they just whipped up out of nothing in the name of protecting you from yourself. I mean, how freaking dare them? How dare them? Those who will give up essential liberty for security deserve neither. Benjamin Franklin, and he was right. So guys, I think that's about enough for today. Let me know down in the comments. Again, be really careful what you say, what you do, all that stuff, because man, you don't want to give them any firepower to use against you. Appreciate you guys tuning in as always. I stand for liberty to the bitter end. I hope you do too.